St. Matthias' Church was originally a mission chapel of the French Capuchin friars dedicated to Our Lady of Miracles. The misfortunes of war fell upon it during the occupation and rendition of Fort St. George by the French in 1746-48, and with harsh justice, the church was held forfeit and delivered to other hands when English rule prevailed. The St. Matthias Church at Vepri has a link with Khoja Petros Ascan, a wealthy and generous Armenian merchant who had earlier built the Marmalong Bridge and the 134 steps on St. Thomas Mount. It was Ascan who built and furnished this church. A protecting force of British troops from Bengal was quartered in the church at Vepri to safeguard it from invasion of Marathas and Muslims. Due to misfortune and bad management, the British soldiers lacked firewood as they laid their hands upon all the woodworks of the church for cooking purposes. Mr. John Law, an old male asylum boy, assisted by Mr. John Goldingham, drew up another plan to cost Rs 31,600, towards which SPCK offered to make up the shortfall on condition that the new church be used for worship only according to the rites of the Church of England. Therefore, the foundation stone of the present St. Matthias' Church was laid on December 8, 1823 by the Honourable Mr. George Stratton, member of the Council of Fort St. George. St. Matthias' came to completion in 1826. On St. Matthias' Day, February 23, 1842, Bishop Spencer of Madras did finally consecrate the new church. The church was built with brick and lime mortar and faced inside and outside with the well-known Madras polished plaster. Ornamental Gothic roof in style and rectangular plain with the sanctuary extending to the east. The vaulted roof of a well-proportioned nave rose to 34 feet above the floor, supported by tall columns in 7 bays, adding loftiness to the effect. Along the walls of the aisle, north and south, arch and wooden windows of good size were provided, with the upper part with coloured glass. The shutters for doors and windows were provided with ventilation shutters, and above these circular ventilators were provided. Externally, the eastern roof and each of the high buttresses flanking the serenelated walls were topped by graceful pinnacles. On top of each pinnacle is what is said to be a chembu with mango leaves and a coconut placed on the top. On the side of the pinnacles, when you look closely, there is the figure of a pigeon with 3 heads with 1 body, which is said to represent the Trinity. If you look at the northwest lofty pinnacles facing the eastern side, you will observe that on 3 faces there are 3 cross depressions. It is said that the architect has designed this so that when the sun rises, the first beam of light falls on the top depression of the cross, and as the sun climbs higher, it will lighten the other crosses during the summer and winter solstice. Due to aging, the lime plaster inside and outside has deteriorated and started to crumble.
We thought of the renovation because we found it should be a must, because the building has been deteriorating for the past years. So it was a planning for 2 to 3 years, and finally we ended up with renovating the church in 1973, which happens to be the 150th anniversary of the church. And thereafter we started maintaining it. Before we started the renovation, it was in that stage. We never used to whitewash. Yearly we used to just wash the church, which many of the ancient people felt that practice should go on, so that it will tell the age of the church. But then the committee we had decided on the technicalities, and we got the structural engineers to come and inspect it and give the report, and they felt that unless the renovation is done, unless the painting is done, unless the church is maintained in the proper way, the building will collapse one day. So bearing that in mind, we did not want to allow it to that extent. So we had to change the pattern of it and got it completely first repaired, renovated, finally whitewashed, and now as you see, the church is in full condition and even the pinnacles have been repaired.
The inside was painted ivory white. The wooden doors and windows were painted brown to match the exterior. The colored glasses on the arched portion of the windows were replaced with colored acrylic sheets. When you enter the church, the main doors and the arch provided is of Muslim architecture, and the pillars on the side of the arch is said to represent plantain trees, and in between the pillars on the top is said to be mango leaves, considered auspicious in South India. This church is unique in that it reflects Gothic, Hindu and Muslim architectural styles. Once you enter the church, to your right hand is the baptism font chiseled out of one solid brown and white granite, and in the base of the font you will see the figures of the Lady of Miracles, Moses and the apostles inlaid and covered with transparent glass. This font was erected in memory of Major General E. W. Childers in the year 1886. The stained glass in the sanctuary has 5 divisions depicting on the left Saint Matthias, in the center the Ascension of Christ, and on the right Saint Peter and Saint Thomas. The original church bell is said to have been discarded for reasons not known, and the present church bell was donated by Mrs. Ethel Harper in memory of her late husband, Mr. Henry Harper, and installed on 29/10/1939. Mention should be made of the Vepri Cemetery, which contains the mortal remains of stalwarts for the construction and growth of this church are being buried, to name a few: Koja Petros Askam, Bratapeth, Gurchi, Fabricius, Lord Bentinck, the British Governor of Madras, were all laid to rest in the St. Matthias Cemetery.